popcorn junkies, just two of us here for a bit of a film buff special. This time we're doing Disobedience, the new film directed by the director of, I didn't realise, of A Fantastic Woman, Sebastián Lelio. Anyway, Disobedience, starring Rachel Weisz. Weisz?
How do I pronounce it?
Rachel McAdams, who I've got a little bit of a girl crush on, and a somewhat remarkable performance by Alessandro Nivola, who I didn't recognise from anything, but he's been in things like Face Off, American Hustle, A Most Violent Year and Selma. This film's already been released in the US and it's not going to be released in the UK until November the 30th. And the concept is basically the daughter of an Orthodox Jewish rabbi is indirectly notified that her rabbi father has died, but clearly she's sort of like a black sheep of the family.
She's gone away to New York. She's not interested in the religion, and he's a star in the religion.
It starts with a remarkable preaching scene.
It does.
Which was incredibly powerful, and then death. Rachel Weisz, who is playing his daughter, who is a photographer in New York and what have you, leading very much that sort of metropolitan lifestyle, comes back to the Orthodox Jewish home.
Actually, we have a moment where we see her photographing, don't we? In
Yes, we
America.
do. So she comes back to the UK. We're not au fait with all the finer details of Orthodox Jewish religion, but you know, the great thing I thought about this film was it gave you a sort of behind-the-scenes look at Orthodox Jewish life. She returns to the Orthodox Jewish family. I was struggling to relate her to the people that she was coming to, because she's not related to the guy played by Alessandro Nivola, and she's not related to Rachel McAdams.
No.
There were three friends, I gather, but obviously through family connections, three friends that were brought close together. Yeah. And what I quite liked was that the background was clearly that they'd all played together when they were younger, and they were very intense friends.
He was very pleased to see her, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Sometimes one can get a very sort of limited perspective because it's such a sort of segregated community, self-segregated. You rarely feel like you meet the personalities of the people within it. So if this film did one thing for me from the get-go, it kind of humanised a religion that I only ever sort of see in North London or certain areas of London.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it quite quickly transpires that there's been a bit of history with her and Rachel McAdams.
Yes.
How did you read that history?
They'd obviously had a thing going when they were young.
Yeah.
How much of a thing, we don't really know.
Yeah, you can't work out whether it was perhaps childhood sort of obsession or infatuation or whatever.
Yeah.
I felt all the way through it. I mean, basically this is a film about their lesbian love and the way in which it can or can't play out within the confines of an Orthodox Jewish community as much as a family. I found it hard to understand whether the husband knew all along. He had this manner to him where he sort of was almost acquiescing to something that was fate. The way in which Rachel Weisz got invited back to her own father's funeral, she wouldn't have been invited, was Rachel McAdams invited her. Yeah. And so the inference there is definitely that Rachel McAdams so desperately wanted her back.
Yeah. And that becomes evident in conversations between them where she says, I've been dying to see you, and she says, I've been dying to see you. Yeah. But it's all sorts of, those conversations are secret in the sense that it's just the two of them. Yeah. And then, but as you say, the guy really likes her a lot, Rachel.
Oh, he does,
but one doesn't know whether he knew what was going on or what.
I was struggling to piece together the pieces. She'd clearly left under a storm of, because everyone who saw her greeted her with kind of, under arched eyebrows, so we don't have a family, and all of that kind of stuff. And you're sort of thinking, well, if she left under a storm cloud before, and it was presumably around some sort of lesbian fling with Rachel McAdams, why wouldn't they think it would happen again? It was a sort of naivety.
Well, maybe it
there.
wasn't to do with that, but the fact that she knew she wanted a normal life, and maybe, although they both said they'd never had another relationship with a woman in a conversation, so maybe it wasn't that. Maybe the Rachel Weisz character just wanted to get out of such a closed, rigorous community and have some freedom. You didn't feel she had any love for the rules and regulations.
No,
at all.
No.
Whereas the other girl did, but at the same time, she, as it turns out, is a lesbian.
I thought there were three of the best performances I've seen in an ensemble cast. I mean, I thought I've always been jury's out on Rachel Weisz, and I thought she was absolutely brilliant in this.
Yeah, I did.
Rachel McAdams, remarkable, heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I mean, more heartbreaking than Rachel Weisz, because you felt Rachel Weisz, as you said, already had the freedom in her life.
Yeah,
didn't
she had more to lose, Rachel McAdams.
Yes, she did. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But equally, Alessandro Nivola. I mean, it really is. If you like good acting, I mean, Nadia has to see this film because it's a remarkably powerful film. And then I was going to ask you, in terms of the portrayal of a lesbian love relationship, I thought it was one of the most powerful I've seen.
It's beautifully done.
Yeah,
beautifully
it was,
done.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought
it's sort of quite extended in some senses, but whereas one might think, oh, well, that will make it salacious, and it's quite sort of
there is one very explicit scene. Yeah.
But it's so well done. It's sensitively done. You don't feel, oh my God, this is going on too long or anything. It's perfectly judged.
Yeah, I mean, I think unfortunately some people will go, oh, that's so explicit, but it was almost uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable for me sitting watching it with my mother. But I mean, it was explicit, but it was incredibly authentic.
It was.
And I thought the actors played it absolutely amazingly, and it wasn't done in a sort of, I often say sex scenes never really add anything to a film, but in this you really felt the underlying release of tension, especially for Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, especially for her.
Yeah, so she was bound within this religious belief. And then there was just this heartbreaking tug of war with her husband, Alessandro, where you just felt, as it started to play out and it begins to become revealed, what's going on.
And also, as the audience, we start to realise it's more serious, as the characters do, actually.
Yes.
Because to begin with, it's just a kiss, and we sort of think, oh, well, maybe that's it, as the characters do. And it is all on Rachel McAdams, actually. You realise the moment they get back together in any sense, they're all over each other because they love each other. And in that sense, it's much more serious than she's been thinking all these years.
This is based on the book by Naomi
Alderman.
Where I felt there was a sort of problem with the film, and it wasn't in the filmmaking, it's beautifully made, beautifully performed. Every scene worked very well. But I felt there was just an overarching problem with the film in that I just didn't quite believe that the Orthodox community would be as, not that they're not tolerant, but her husband, as you know, the character played by Alessandro Nivola, is so sort of, in a way, relative to what he's going through and what he's losing with his wife. He's very sort of understanding, and there's an element of, okay, you've got the arched eyebrows and the sort of bitchy comments of certain Jewish women within the community. I don't know if I believed it. I felt it was trying to walk a tightrope of not offending the Orthodox Jewish community,
maybe,
whilst telling the story of someone wishing to be free of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine. That's okay to do that. But I suppose, like in apostasy, I believe that that's the closing out that would have happened.
The thing is, though, that the husband, he's having to make a choice about becoming the next big rabbi, taking over the position that the first guy died in the first scene. When he goes off and you see him thinking, he's got to, the reason it was sort of quite soft on him, is that he's got to live in that community from then on. So in that sense, he's got to almost take the rabbi's words at the beginning and translate them into something that's happening now. And in that respect, he's saying, let us all be free. Let us all have the freedom to do what we want. That's what we've reached. That's the stage we've reached. And he says that beautifully, and he's hurting like mad inside because he knows what that will mean for him.
And the end of the film, I'm very confused by.
I don't think it worked, actually.
No, I don't think. We won't give away what exactly happens. I'd be really interested to know when it comes out what you think. But the end of the film, I felt it didn't have the courage of its convictions. No. It needed to go one way or the other.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm literally confused as to what the ending was. If I was to say, right, what happened there and how does that play out beyond the film, I literally don't know. I thought it was a really privileged insight into a religion and some of the sort of, I say rituals, that sounds too strong, but the belief systems and the sort of ways in which they'd commemorate the dead. Yeah. It was informative. I mean, it runs at almost 2 hours, and I wasn't bored at all.
No, I wasn't, and I'm amazed it did actually then.
Yeah.
Because it went by in a flash.
It did, didn't it? And I mean, I found myself surprisingly, when you use the word thriller to describe a thriller, you're on the edge of your seat. I was on the edge of my seat throughout this.
Yeah.
Because there's that whole thing of, you can see it in the trailer, of will they, won't they be caught? There are moments of, oh my God, and I just thought it was very powerful.
It looked gorgeous. The acting was beautiful.
Impeccable.
Impeccable. And as I said before, it's all to do with their expressions. And you totally believed, until the sort of, I suppose, the last half hour maybe, I absolutely believed everything that was happening on screen.
Yeah. And I'd have thought, if you're gay and you're in the Orthodox Jewish community, this film would be an absolute godsend. Did it speak to you as a lesbian for getting the Jewish thing?
It did. And then I suppose, as in all sorts of so-called same-sex films, we were leading up to a love scene to convince us, and it was done so well, so sort of sensitively, but at the same time passionately, because that's the hard thing to straddle. So in that respect, I thought it was all handled incredibly sensitively. And shall I score it?
Yeah.
I will score it a 9.
Hey, 9 out of 10. I thought it was a really tender and a really intense and a really honest film. And you have moments of compassion for all of the characters. You don't feel like any of them are playing games. I was heartbroken for Alessandro Nivola. I mean, obviously, as the heterosexual male in the film, and I'm a heterosexual male, I could see and feel, in a weird way, how much he loved his wife and how much he really loved Rachel Weisz too. And so I thought it was beautifully performed by him. And the two women, understandably, the two leads, deserve a real shout out. For me as well, Rachel McAdams, in a weird way, Rachel Weisz was great. She was brilliant. She was a sort of anchor to the film. But Rachel McAdams played that vulnerability and disorientation and struggle and sort of the constraints of the religion and the desire for air. And I mean, you're right. Rarely, I never thought I'd say that a sex scene in a film so perfectly manifested all of the film's subject matters.
Yeah.
But that intensity, if you can get past the squeamishness of it, it was an incredibly authentic moment. And they played it fantastically. So I'd go, because of the quibbles with the ending and the feeling that I just don't feel it would have run so smooth. Not that it runs smoothly, but I just don't feel the ending is. I don't believe the ending. There's something. Something I don't believe about that. So only on that basis would I probably give it a 9. But this was creeping very closely to one of my favourite films of the year.
Yeah,
For more film and family fun, don't forget to click the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell to never miss an update.